welcome back to my channel. You guys have been really enjoying my macrame videos, and we've done 2 now. I have a couple more in the works, but I have 2 videos already on my channel, but they are both for macrame wall hangings. And it's time to change it up. It's time to do something a little different, but equally as beautiful and gorgeous for your home. So today we are gonna be DIYing macrame pillows. There is no need to be scared. We are not using a sewing machine to do this either. You can make just as beautiful of a macrame pillow not using a sewing machine. We are gonna be using an existing pillowcase and DIYing some macrame over the top of it. In addition to the 3 knotting techniques that I showed you guys how to do in my first DIY macrame wall hanging, I'm gonna be showing you guys a few more because those were more on the basic side. Those were actually pretty hard for me to even wrap my head around. So I hope I gave you guys some good tips in order to really kind of wrap your head around how to do some of those more intricate knots in my first video. So today I'm gonna be showing you guys a few more knotting techniques to really up your macrame game and just make your own unique style pillow using knots that you uniquely put together to make this pillow really special. So let's get started. So the first technique that I'm going to be showing you how to do is the square knot. And for this technique, we use 4 strands, specifically the outside 2 strands. So keeping the center 2 strands stationary, wrap your left strand over the top of them, and then your right strand over that left strand, under and through, creating a pretzel shape on top of the 2 stationary center strands, and pull tight. Now we're going to do it backwards. So take your right strand over the top of the 2 stationary center ones, and then your left strand over, under, and through, creating a backwards pretzel, and pull tight. And this creates our square knot. You can use this square knot to make really intricate patterns and make really fun details to any type of macrame project. We're going to be using the square knot across and putting it across the entire top row of this little mini macrame that I'm using for this tutorial. So when we're finished with the top row, we're going to have 3 square knots in a row. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a pattern using square knots, and this pattern is going to look like an upside down triangle where the square knots go to a point at the bottom. So using 4 strands again, but this time you're going to use 2 strands from each of the square knots from above. So as the first row had 3 square knots, the second row will have 2, and the third row will have 1. So you're just going to repeat that same square knot pattern using 2 strands from each of the square knots above until you have it all the way down to 1 at the bottom. For the final technique today, I'm going to show you how to make fringe, and this gives a really great detail to any type of macrame project. We're going to be using a dog brush because this really is the best way to get fringe, and you're just going to start by holding down your macrame knots and working upwards from the bottom to the top of where you want your fringe to be, and just simply brushing out the yarn. It separates all of the yarn and all of the small strands from the larger rope look and really creates a beautiful kind of fringed look. And then just cut along the bottom to make it even. So now we're going to get started on making our macrame pillow. And first, what supplies you're going to need is a pre-made pillowcase and yarn, obviously, macrame yarn, insert for your pillowcase, a tape measure, scissors, and a regular pencil. So the first step in our project is to apply the yarn directly to the pillowcase itself. And we're going to be doing this along the top of our pillowcase. So to give you some dimensions, I have a 20 by 20 square pillowcase and insert. And depending on how intricate your knotting pattern is going to be, I estimate that you need to have your yarn double the length of your pillow. So 20-inch pillow times 2 would give you 40 inches long. We also need a loop at the top of each yarn strand, so we're going to have to double that measurement. So 40 inches times 2 gives us 80 inches each. We are going to be placing these 1/2 inch apart, so I estimate that we need 40 strands of yarn each at 80 inches. So that gives you a basis, but if you're going to do a pillow that's larger or smaller, just adjust your measurement to match. Now that we've determined how long and how many strands we're going to need for this project, we're going to be marking where exactly we're going to be punching our holes in order to put our macrame on our pillowcase. So place a measuring tape right on top, and at each 1/2 inch mark, you're going to put a pencil mark directly onto your pillowcase. You're going to take a pair of scissors, and right where you marked each of these little pencil marks, you're going to be poking a hole or cutting a small slit through both sides of your pillowcase, and this is going to be your hole where you're going to put your macrame through. So just match up the ends of your macrame, creating a loop at the top, and then from the back of your pillowcase, stick the looped end of your yarn through the hole. And this is kind of acting like a stick of some kind if you were doing a wall hanging, and you're going to use the lark's head knot like I showed you in my first macrame video, which I'll link below, and just pull your yarn through the loop and pull tight. You're going to repeat these same steps by poking or cutting a hole through both layers of your pillowcase, and then sticking your yarn through each of the hole using the lark's head knot until you have filled all of your pencil mark holes and you've put all of your yarn directly onto your pillowcase. And so after this is all done, we're going to move on to starting the pattern of our macrame pillow. So now that I've completed adding all of my macrame to my pillowcase, we're going to get started on the design. I always like to sketch out my design first because I just kind of want to wrap my head around a general idea of really what I want to create. And I do this best by just lightly sketching it out, kind of a pattern that I like. But just remember that every creative project is really going to take on a mind of its own. And if you feel like you're not liking something or you want to adjust something while you're actually knotting your macrame, you absolutely can. So for my design, I wanted to create a kind of a top section that had some diamond-shaped alternating square knots, and then kind of break it up with a line of half hitch knots, and then create a point pattern with my square knots with some fringe. So using a combination of the knots that I showed you today and with the knots that I showed you guys in my last video where I created a dip-dyed macrame. So let's get started. So first I'm going to get started on my top section of alternating diamond shape and longer square knot sections. So first I'm going to create a square knot every 2 yarns apart. So I'm going to skip over, contrary to what you see on the screen, I actually had to go back and change it, but skip 2 yarns on the left side, then create a square knot, and then skipping 2, put a square knot, 2, put a square knot, 2, put a square knot until you're all the way to the end. Now that my top row is complete, I'm going to go back and actually put 2 square knots right below that top one and then 1 in the center below that. You get the idea, it's creating a diamond shape. So I'm going to do this to every other square knot along the top row because I want to come back in between each diamond shape and just do 2 more parts of our square knot. So now you see that I completed the top section. So it has diamond, long square knot, diamond, long square knot, and so on. Next, I'm going to be doing a half hitch knot, creating a straight line separating my pattern. So I show you how to do this in my last video, which I did link below so that you guys can check it out. But essentially, you're just going to use the far left strand and pull it all the way across to the other side and kind of loosely tie it off. This is your anchor strand. So this is strand's never going to move. And you're going to take each strand along your macrame and loop it over. I have a more detailed tutorial in the last video, so you definitely need to check it out. Next, I'm going to get started on my pointed pattern using the square knot again. So starting at the very edge, I'm going to create square knots all the way across my macrame. I'm not skipping over any strands this time like we did before. These are all going to sit right next to each other all the way across. And then we're going to continue to layer the square knots on top of each other, similarly to what I did in the tutorial earlier in this video, where the first row will have 20 square knots, the second row will have 19, then 18, 17, 16, until all the way down to the point where you have one square knot left. So just continue to put square knots starting in the middle every time, just so that you don't confuse yourself. It helped me to kind of like start from the very center knot and then work my way out to the edges until I got all the way down to the bottom with one knot. Once you have your pointed pattern all complete, we're just going to cut all of our strands to the same length of our pillow. This is going to change when we start to do the fringe, but just so that we can get all the excess yarn away so that we can start making our fringe. So holding on to your knots at the very base, just to kind of keep them in place and the pillow held down, you're going to take your dog brush and just brush all of your yarn in a downward motion, starting at the edges and working your way up until you have fringe. Once you've brushed out all of your yarn into fringe, we're just going to cut it once more right along the edge of our pillowcase to make a straight line. Next, it's time to flip it over and actually put our pillow insert inside and see what it looks like. Voila, and we're done. So that's it, guys. That's how you can easily and not use a sewing machine to make a beautiful macrame pillow for your room or your bed or your couch or another place where you put a pillow. You could use any size pillow. You could do any type of knotting technique combination and really create your own style. You could even dye the yarn before ever adding it to your pillow. So really, the options are endless in making a really, really, really unique macrame pillow for your style of home. I would actually love to know what style home and what style room you have. So let me know in the comments below what type of style you have and where you're thinking about putting one of your beautiful DIY macrame pillows. So if you guys liked this DIY tutorial on how to make a macrame pillow, definitely hit the like button below. And I actually got a request from one of you guys to create a tutorial on how to ombre dye your macrame, so that really cute video is coming soon. It's actually something that I've wanted to do for a while now, so I'm so glad one of you guys requested it. And if you ever have any special requests for tutorials that you want me to do, definitely leave them in the comments below. And if you love DIYs just as much as I do, hit the subscribe button below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. How to knot some weave, make, do. I'm gonna show you guys how. You made my first macrame with me. Do you remember?